My family has owned a small beach cabin on the Oregon coast for nearly 30 years. It wasn't fancy, no luxury furniture, no million-dollar views. Just a quiet little cabin overlooking the ocean where my parents taught me how to fish and where my kids now spend every summer. The nearest neighborhood had recently formed a homeowners association. Since my cabin sat outside the development, I never paid much attention to them. That changed one Saturday morning. I had just finished making coffee when 3 black SUVs pulled into the gravel driveway. 6 people stepped out wearing matching jackets with large letters reading, HOA Compliance Division. One of them walked straight to my porch. "Sir, we're here to inspect the property." I looked at him for a second. "Inspect what?" He held up a clipboard. "We've received complaints that your cabin violates HOA architectural standards." I couldn't help but laugh. "My cabin isn't in your HOA. The man barely blinked. "According to our records, this entire shoreline falls under HOA jurisdiction." I knew that wasn't true. My cabin had existed nearly 20 years before their subdivision was even built. I politely asked them to leave. Instead, 2 of the agents walked around the side of my cabin taking photographs. Another began measuring my deck. One even marked something on a clipboard as if he were writing citations. I pulled out my phone. "I've asked you to leave. If you stay, you're trespassing." The lead agent folded his arms. "We're authorized to be here." I smiled. "Great. Then you won't mind explaining that to the sheriff." About 15 minutes later, a county deputy arrived. The HOA representatives immediately rushed toward him. "Deputy, this homeowner is refusing our inspection." The deputy looked at me. "Do you own this property?" I handed him my driver's license and the property tax statement I kept inside the cabin. He reviewed the documents before turning toward the HOA agents. "Can I see your authorization?" They confidently handed him several pages of HOA bylaws. The deputy skimmed them for less than a minute. Then he asked a very simple question. "Where's the recorded document showing this property is part of your HOA?" Silence. The lead agent shuffled through his papers. "We don't have that with us." The deputy nodded. "I didn't think so." He looked back at me. "Would you like them removed from your property?" I answered with one word. "Yes." The deputy immediately instructed every HOA representative to leave. None of them looked happy. But the story didn't end there. 3 days later, I received an official-looking violation notice demanding nearly $8,000 in fines. The violations included unauthorized paint colors, improper deck construction, and landscaping that supposedly violated HOA rules. There was just one problem. I wasn't an HOA member. I hired a real estate attorney that same afternoon. Instead of simply responding to the fine, he started investigating. Within a week, we discovered something interesting. The HOA had been sending violation notices to several nearby property owners who weren't even inside the subdivision. Apparently, most people simply paid to avoid legal trouble. Very few questioned the HOA's authority. My attorney filed public records requests with the county. The results were shocking. The HOA's official boundary maps clearly stopped nearly half a mile before reaching my cabin. There wasn't even an easement connecting their neighborhood to my land. In other words, their representatives knowingly entered private property they had no authority over. We filed suit, trespassing, harassment, abuse of process, and interference with private property rights. During discovery, internal HOA emails painted an ugly picture. Board members openly discuss expanding their influence beyond subdivision boundaries because nearby beachfront homes improve neighborhood appearance. One email even suggested that most owners won't fight us. They chose the wrong owner. The case moved quickly. The judge reviewed the subdivision plats, county maps, tax records, and recorded deeds. The evidence couldn't have been clearer. My cabin had never been part of the HOA. Never. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. The HOA was ordered to permanently stop contacting non-members. They reimbursed my legal fees, paid damages for trespassing, and every outstanding violation issued to neighboring properties outside the HOA was immediately withdrawn. The county also required the HOA to update its enforcement procedures before issuing future violations. News spread quickly through the community. Several homeowners thanked me. Apparently, many had quietly paid fines they never legally owed. The HOA board didn't survive the fallout. Within months, the president resigned. 2 other board members stepped down. A completely new board was elected. One afternoon, the new president visited my cabin. He wasn't carrying violation notices. He was carrying homemade cookies. He apologized for everything. We sat on the porch overlooking the ocean for nearly an hour talking about how badly things had gone wrong. Sometimes, people confuse authority with ownership. They are not the same thing. Owning a clipboard doesn't make you the law. Owning matching jackets doesn't give you control over someone else's property. And the ocean doesn't care where an HOA thinks its boundaries are. As the sun disappeared beyond the waves that evening, I smiled. The cabin was quiet again, exactly the way my parents always intended it to be.